consumer is really talking about you, you know. So I guess it fosters, integration fosters what I call people integration, which it's through technology, but really it's about connections with real people who are actually working. So sometimes you do work on your own, but the collaborative aspect of wikis and so on is where the real power is. So here is an actual example of something we did recently, which it contains a dizzying array of integration bits, even though it doesn't look like it. So this is a consistent interface for a law firm called RPC. They have about 400 or 500 lawyers in the city. And the top bar is actually, we've created a framework for integration that acts as a broker. So it kind of renders that using a .NET platform as an API. There's search across there, which is a federated search. There's microblogging at the top, which is our own app. The news you see in the middle there is actually a Confluence blog. It's actually a space in Confluence. And the news on the right there is actually coming from Confluence. And everything below the gray menu is a Ruby on Rails application, which looks ridiculous, but it actually does work. And then the recent activity portion at the bottom is Confluence's activity stream surfaced there. Now, they said, could you integrate SharePoint for us? So we just piped that into that activity stream. So as far as the user's concerned, they don't actually care or know who's doing what and where. It could be Confluence or SharePoint or AN other app of maybe 10 or 15 different apps. And in this law firm, they have 25, I think, applications. And lawyers have a bookmarks list on their IE, which is ridiculous, and a different login for each one. So this is a first attempt at standardizing a user interface that promotes ambient awareness across applications, not just across Confluence. They found this really interesting. And on the left here is a tensor, which is a feed reader. So this one view contains integrations from 4 apps on 3 different technologies and 2 different platforms, Windows and Linux. But it doesn't look like it does. It's just a screenshot. So I guess where this might go would be to see where Confluence fits in the grand scheme of how do people get to information, and the value of the activity stream being very generic in a sense. So all kinds of activity can trigger awareness of what your colleagues are doing, not necessarily just in a wiki. This picture is really freaky, so sorry to include it. But in fact, I'll move swiftly away from it. So we saw a lot of surprising after effects of the ambient awareness concept. So the first is what Facebook does to you. It makes you want to see what your friends are doing. So having stated what your interests are and who your friends are, that's all you need to do. You just sit there and it pushes things to you. So that ambient awareness is an obvious benefit. So in terms of what benefit does it give you, it's what we call an emergent outcome. So a developer or an IT architect wouldn't have known that integrating would have created a connection between 2 people, for example, in a way that they didn't design. So you're kind of building for this idea of unexpected outcome, where your employees, people using the system, will find ways to mess with the system in a way you never thought possible. And this essentially is an emergent outcome. So by integrating, you're actually fostering some kind of emergent outcome. So sorry to go so deep on the whole kind of conceptual philosophy thing, but that's the general basis for why we justify why we do integration. So the other thing is that people don't want to be told by IT that this space is necessarily, in your personal space, please don't upload your pictures from Tenerife or something, but eventually people do. And Confluence now includes microblogging and status updates, and you have to wonder whether, IT can't control whether someone's updating every time they go to the bathroom or something, that, hey, I'm going to the bathroom, you have to wonder, what do you do when people are faced with microblogging and these sorts of things? So the general way of seeing this is as a filter. So in the previous screenshot, the filters you build there of your activity, your groups, and yours is a very basic form of sort of magnifying glass. But from then on, you can watch topics. You can watch certain things you want to watch. You can watch emerging teams that are forming around with colleagues that you're not even working with, but in projects you're interested in, for example. So that kind of aspect of nudge people, but observe the real life use of the wiki, of these different, of Jira and so on, you'll find that, as you've probably seen, there's some ridiculous ways people use the wiki that you never thought possible. Like they might even use a version history to, for example, monitor how many people are coming to an event or something like that. People find these amazing uses, and in a way you just have to stay with them and actually encourage them. A classic example from the consumer world is MySpace. When MySpace first launched, I think it probably has a lesson for the enterprise world too. People found that they could hack their MySpace profile to kind of style the way it looks. So they could change the black color to white, or they can put glittering stars around their profile, things like that. And MySpace initially thought they'd lock down the system and make sure no one can customize. Facebook to this day doesn't really let you customize either. But MySpace's initial success was simply the fact that people could hack their homepage and make it look any way they wanted. So that kind of personality, or that unforeseen behavior, which the designers were shocked by, because suddenly you have this completely inconsistent site where everyone's created the most mangled page that is imaginable on MySpace, and that's okay because it's their personality. So that's probably one consumer example, but in a sense the lesson holds true. And then there's this aspect of what happens when you know, this sudden awareness of people that you never really worked with, and in an activity stream you're seeing things that you didn't ask for. You're seeing that someone from Wade, some other office, is doing something, and it's kind of interesting because you see you see interesting reactions. There's protective reactions. So in the law firm that I speak of, actually let's use another law firm which I'm not going to name. Essentially IT thought their jobs were on the line when a system got integrated. So they made it as hard as possible for us to integrate anything, because there were people dedicated to just maintaining these old systems. That was the IT side of things. And then there was this whole kind of, a boss asked in an investment banking firm, does that mean my traders can actually write things whatever they want, and can they communicate with people higher up in the hierarchy, for example? And the answer is, of course, yes. So, you know, there's issues here of cultural change in the way people's hierarchies work in companies, because the flat structure here is what the software gives you. It gives you that flatness, and then what you do with it is a balancing act between control and freedom, in letting people just get on with their day jobs. So that's the kind of integration piece. It's just probably too much to handle for this time, but I just thought I'd end with something that we're doing now with two very popular consumer companies. Whilst they've integrated the inside, they don't actually have this firm that I speak of that launched their product on different departments said would launch their product on different dates. They don't have outside integration. So they have a Twitter account where consumers complain about their products. So whatever it is, washing powder, toothpaste, whatever it is this firm makes. So the thing is that their responses to these people are quite laughable. They're corporate replies to personal tweets. You know, so in effect, they're actually denigrating their brand. They're not doing anything for themselves. They're making them look, so their Facebook page actually makes them look silly on Facebook, because they don't have this culture of people are talking about us. How do we respond internally, and who responds? So in a world where, in the public-facing world where on Facebook and Twitter, anyone can say anything about your organization, you need to have a strategy of joining up what's happening on the inside and what your views are, and the nominated person to talk to the people on the outside. And also the other way around. So I think it's more interesting if you see this kind of model. This is for an actual model for that company. So they've actually combined various aspects of the internal integration with social response. So Confluence does some of this stuff. A couple of other apps do things like product marketing and various other things. There's a DMS, there's SharePoint, and they're using Radiant 6 as a listening platform. And I think at the moment people tweet things related to them about 20 times a minute or something. And someone actually sits there with a dashboard and sees what the world is saying about this consumer company. The problem then becomes, what if someone says that, I'd like this feature on your product? Right? So maybe the battery life on your phone isn't that great. How do you feed that back to the person in the lab who designed the phone? So in the case of a phone company, for example. So these issues are suddenly emerging because of the new consumer social web, but what the trend we're seeing is people are coming to us with these sorts of requirements, and these are the sorts of approaches that we're taking. So that covers quite a lot, so I'm just going to skip out there and say, like, if you've integrated any apps, what have they been, and have you thought of integrating Confluence with anything else, and would you wish that your activity stream has something more than just wiki updates and Confluence stuff and Jira stuff?